know. And it turns out that the ghost was never even in the bathroom.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where was it?
I don't know, but it was Mr. Moon the whole time. Oh, hey, everyone. Sorry, we were in the middle of some good old-fashioned ghost stories we've actually experienced here in the castle. And we didn't realize that you had snuck up on us. So
we didn't realize also that most of them are Mr. Moon, our cat.
It's
our
true.
Evil black cat.
It's true.
Who will frequently make his presence known on the show by yowling while we're in the middle of telling a scary story. But,
yeah, he's very noisy today, so prepare. But anyway, welcome to the Castle of Spirits True Ghost Stories podcast. I am the Ghostkeeper, Jane.
And I'll be your Ghostkeeper, Vince.
That's right. And today we are doing something just a little bit different. When I was searching around the castle, rooting around in the library for some stories to share with you, I found two that are actually about the same haunting. And so I decided to have myself a mini theme. And Vince?
I'm just here for the stories.
I thought you had a mini theme too.
Oh, no, yeah. Today we're actually, because we both suddenly realized we're reading stories that were written and submitted by people or that took place in Ontario, Canada.
Yes.
So
we've got a mini theme inside a big theme.
Exactly.
I personally have never thought of Ontario, Canada as being a particularly creepy place, but it turns out that it's just as creepy as the next place, right?
It seems that way. I was actually in Ontario about 25 years ago.
What? I've never been there.
I really was. And Quebec, as they say, I used to say Quebec, but now I say Quebec.
Quebec. Yeah.
Because it's totally French up there.
Yeah. I actually discovered a couple of years ago that I have a lot of relatives in the Quebec area.
Really?
Ancestry.com, man. It's amazing the things you can learn. You just give them a little bit of your DNA. I know it's a little creepy, but...
Small price to pay for a world of knowledge. And to make sure that if you ever commit a crime, nobody has to work too hard to find you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're in a database now.
Oh,
but that's,
I gotcha.
I mean, it's 2025 almost.
Hey, Vince, speaking of it almost being 2025, I was wondering if you had any ghost stories that take place in Ontario that you would like to share with our friends.
In 2025?
No, today.
Oh, okay. This is a ghost stories podcast, not a time travel podcast.
Hey, man, we like it all. We'll take time travel stories too.
Oh, I know. I dig it. I dig it so much, and I think you dig it too.
Okay, go.
But today, I'll be reading a story from Jesse in Ontario, Canada. It was written and submitted in September of 2007, and it's a true ghost story called The Voice. This happened about a year and a half ago at a family gathering. Every year, we celebrate Christmas about a week or two early because my aunts and uncles go away. What are they?
That sounds nefarious.
What are they, elves? Anyway, that year, we were at one of my uncle's apartments. There was lots of food and talking, but throughout the whole thing, I felt as if I was being watched. It made me a little nervous, but I shrugged it off. As we opened presents, the feeling of being watched hit me again. I shrugged it off again by saying it was just the adults watching me open my gifts. Eventually, the get-together came to a close, and one of my cousins was invited to spend the night at the apartment. So he and my brother shared one of the spare bedrooms. I was asked if I was okay spending the night on the couch. This couch is very comfortable to sleep on, I might add, so I told everyone I was fine, and they all went upstairs to bed. This was around 12 a.m., and I couldn't fall asleep. I was half expecting to find someone sitting in the chair in front of the computer. It felt like someone was sitting there watching me. Needless to say, I got nervous. I began to fidget and tried to get to sleep. I felt tense and was expecting something to pop out any second and scare me half to death. I counted sheep and sang songs to myself. Finally, when 2 a.m. rolled around, I knew everyone was asleep. The apartment was silent. I could hear the cars rushing by in the city, but nothing made a sound in the apartment. At around 3 a.m., I finally gave up on trying to get to sleep and just stared at the ceiling. I began to relax myself and closed my eyes. I was getting along great when suddenly I heard, "Hey," right beside my ear. It was a male voice, and it made me jump. I almost fell off the couch, and I kept my eyes securely shut. I peeked out once and then opened my eyes, shaking. "Please, I'm trying to sleep. I don't want to talk right now," I said. Immediately, I felt better. I became sleepy and actually fell asleep a few moments later, after mumbling a small thank you, of course. When I woke up, I told my dad the story. I can't remember if he believed me or not, but I insist that it really happened. I slept on that couch again this year, and nothing happened, except for feeling watched again. But that's all that happened. I think he, the ghost, realized that I wanted to sleep and left me alone. I don't know who it was, but I hope he talks to me again. This time, I will not freak out. And that was The Voice by Jesse in Ontario, Canada in September 2007. Not the most cinematic of stories that I've ever heard or read. But there's something very unique about that, in that I think that everybody listening has experienced something like that before. Exploding head syndrome.
I was just going to say, it almost sounded like exploding head syndrome.
Now, in this case, Jesse heard a voice.
But I feel like I've thought that I heard voices as well in that type of situation. It's not to take away anything from his experience.
Or hers.
Or hers. But because they don't actually even know what exploding head syndrome really is or what causes it. For those of you who don't know, exploding head syndrome, it sounds absolutely horrific, but I think we've all experienced it. It's when you're just about asleep and right before you fall asleep, you think you hear a loud bang or an explosion or something, and it startles you awake. And I've definitely had that happen. I've had where I thought I heard a voice. Typically, it's like, "You're a voice, Vince. I'll think that you said something to me," or I think that I heard our dog bark or something.
I've had one or two experiences where I have actually heard or perceived to have heard a voice that woke me up from my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, I thought it was, a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But one time I heard a voice so insistent that I thought, this has to be a message like from the other side. I don't normally go around seeking signs from the afterlife and things like that, even though I live in the castle of spirits. But in this case, I think it was my grandmother's voice, my grandmother having passed away a long time ago, saying my name, like once, urgently.
Mm-hmm.
And it woke me. And I thought, well, it's just one of those things. It was a dream. But I thought, maybe I better just go check things out.
Yeah.
So I got up. It was like 3 a.m. and I walked all through the house to check all the windows, make sure there wasn't somebody standing at the front door trying to break in or anything, checking to make sure that all the stoves and the oven was turned off.
How many did we have?
Stovetops.
Oh, gotcha. Wasn't the back door unlocked?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
The back door was unlocked.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me of that, because to my recollection, I didn't notice anything was amiss, and I thought, okay, well,
yeah, I
maybe
remember that.
maybe the act of walking through the house altered something that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that the back door was unlocked leads me to believe that it was kind of like a reminder, and it could have been my own subconscious telling me, you left the back door unlocked, wake up.
Sure.
But I'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was that exploding head syndrome? No. Was it a voice from beyond?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe exploding head syndrome is a real experience and not like a brain misfire. Maybe in that instant, that liminal space between awake and asleep, there's crossover into, I don't know. Anything I'm going to say sounds cheesy, whether it's crossover into a different dimension or, the veil is thin or, whatever it is, being in that in-between space between asleep and awake might give you access to things that we can't perceive while you're awake or asleep. And
I totally believe that. I mean, that's the kind of the ideal space to be in when you're meditating.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're meditating, you're sort of in a neutral state of existence.
Right.
That can be very, very wonderful. But at the same time, I think it also leaves you open to perceiving other things. I don't believe that business about meditation opening you up to infection by demons or infestations in your anything.
Is that a thing?
Possession. That's
People
the word I was thinking
believe
of. There are some people who believe that meditation is an evil thing.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I guess not.
I've done some fair amount of meditation. I've never levitated.
Haven't you?
I have elevated, but not physically.
Boy. All right.
Anyway.
Hey, speaking of elevation, maybe I should read a story.
Should take it on up.
Great. How about just hush and let me take over now?
Sure.
Okay. My story is Port Perry Ghost, submitted by Brett Andrews in Ontario, Canada, April of 1998. The story that follows is all true. I live in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, which is not a bad place to live. Near my town is a smaller village, about a half-hour away, called Port Perry. It is very old and has a lot of history. I've heard stories of ghost ferries on the lake, which is situated on Lake Scugog, and others, but the one that is the truth and happens nightly is this. A while ago, in the 60s, there was a man traveling home one night during a storm on his motorcycle. He was taking a small access road that led to some cottages that everyone knew about. What he didn't know was that a farmer had just recently purchased the land. The farmer had put up a barbed wire fence to keep the cattle in and bisected the road, not telling anyone. He assumed they would find out. Well, the man on the bike came driving along late at night and ran into the fence, not seeing it, and decapitated himself. The farmer was questioned, and eventually everyone forgot. People say that if you drive along the old road at night in the opposite direction the man was traveling, you'll see the light coming at you. That's exactly what I saw. Some friends and I were parked down the road, watching and waiting for the light. We thought it was all a hoax until, well, we saw it all right. It started out small, in the middle of a field, and then grew bigger, coming closer. We all felt really cold and watched in awe. Man, I tell you, I almost ran. It was scary. After about 30 seconds, it faded away. Nothing. We sat there and waited to see it again. We all saw it 4 more times that night and have been back a few times since. Some nights you can see the tail light as if it's turning around. There's also a rock where his head is said to have rolled to or bounced off of. If you stand or sit on it during a rainstorm, you'll become, either way, very ill or thrown from it. I've been back in the field during the day and at night and have found not a trace of anything. The only thing that knows the truth are the trees and grasses growing in the field. Thank you again to Brett Andrews in Ontario, Canada, for submitting Port Perry Ghost in April of 1998. 26 years ago.
Man, do we really live in a world where 1998 was 26 years ago?
I know, right?
Of course, I know I'm aging myself because, well, but that's just the way it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But I love that story because I love haunted highways, haunted roads, ghost lights, and being able to go to a place and actually see what you've heard of. The story about this thing that happens, and you go there and it reliably happens. I mean, maybe there's a natural explanation for it, but maybe not. And either way, I think it's cool. I wish we had a spot like that around here.
Well, we do have the one spot in the cemetery that is not a light, but is a statue that is said, a statue of a First World War soldier.
The unknown soldier, the tomb of the unknown soldier. Yeah, it's in a circle in the middle of the big cemetery in our city. If you want, you can Google it. the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in the Ogden, Utah cemetery. It's situated up on this tall pedestal. I think the statue of the person himself is about life size, but then the pedestal he's on is like 5-6 feet tall. So it's a really tall statue. And then it's in the middle of a big island in the cemetery that's just a full circle. And I'm all gesticulating as if our audience can see what I'm doing.
They can feel it.
They can feel it in their hearts. So it's this big grassy circle with the pedestal and the statue smack in the center. And the story goes that if you drive in a circle around it at night, the head of the statue will turn and follow you. We tried it one time when I was younger, like in late high school or just out of high school, and we couldn't even see the statue's face, let alone know if his head was turning, because it's so dark and there's no street light there or anything. And Vince and I, we've walked past it several times during the day, maybe I told this recently, but
because we just hang out at cemeteries all the time.
All the time. The last time we walked past it, which was just a few weeks ago, it was broad daylight and we were walking up to it, and it really looked like his head was kind of turning to follow me. I know it's just that same thing that, you talk about no matter where you are in a room, if there's a portrait of a person, it looks like they're looking at you no matter, where you move to. So I'm sure it's that same type of thing, but I had never experienced that before with that statue, but
and it's
really
also
looked like it.
It's also, like you said, very big. And when you're walking, you're moving very slow in relation to the size of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if it continues to sort of face you, it looks like it's turning.
Yeah.
It's very, very fascinating phenomena, but it is explainable.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not scary or freaky or cool.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't exactly hinge all of my paranormal beliefs on whether or not a statue was looking at me as I was walking past it. I mean, my grandmother back in the 80s, she was getting up there, and she was a little bit, in the head. She was, she was senile, as they called it back then. I remember her asking my mom to remove a Halloween plate that we had on the wall. Mm-hmm. It was a little jack-o'-lantern face. Mm-hmm. To remove it from the wall because it was staring at her.
Oh.
And my mom took it down, and I was like, oh.
That's got to be a really disconcerting feeling. But anyway, it's neither here nor there.
Well, it's there. It's way back there.
Way back there.
But right over here, though.
Right over here? Do you have a story right over here?
I do, actually.
Do it.
And we spoke earlier about this episode having a particular theme, that being stories told in and around Ontario, Canada. Mm-hmm. Now, this next story I'm going to read doesn't actually take place in Ontario.
Cheater.
However, no, it's no cheat because it directly references the story that I just read called The Voice by Jesse in Ontario.
All right.
This one's called I Heard a Voice Too, submitted by Kim Patterson in Arizona, USA, in December of 2007, just a few months after The Voice by Jesse. And it goes like this. I had to submit this experience after reading The Voice by Jesse in Ontario, Canada in September. I, too, heard a voice. This happened about 15 years ago when I lived in a haunted house in Oregon. I was dozing on the couch in the living room with the TV down real low. It was daytime, probably late afternoon. I was lying on the couch, about to fall asleep, when the hair on the back of my neck stood up, like someone had just walked into the room. You know that feeling when your eyes are closed and you sense someone there with you, just waiting to scare you? That was the feeling I got, only I was home alone. I opened my eyes, and it was only my cat, Chubby. He was staring at something behind me, and his hair was all fuzzed out like he was really scared. I thought to myself, okay, that's what I sensed, and I closed my eyes again. As soon as I closed my eyes, a male voice yelled, "Hey!" right in my ear. My eyes flew open to see the cat, his hair still fuzzed out, take off running, so I knew that he had heard it too. I ran out of the house and went to my friend's house, telling her that she needed to spend the night. I didn't tell her why, only that she had to. She agreed, and I slept soundly all night. But when I awoke, I rolled over to see her lying flat on her back, staring wide-eyed at the ceiling with Chubby on her chest. I said, "What's the matter with you?" She said, "Something yelled in my ear last night, and Chubby heard it too." I said, "Was it hey that the voice yelled?" She shot me a look that said I was in big trouble, and she said, "How did you know?" I told her it was because it had happened to me, and that was why I wanted her to spend the night. Now, so many years later, we still talk about the house and the odd occurrences and us. We seem to attract that kind of energy when we're together, and we have yet to find any explanation. I would really like to chat with others who have also heard hey in their ear. And thanks, Kim Patterson in Arizona. And yeah, I would like to hear from other people. Anybody listening to this episode who's ever heard hey shouted in their ear in the middle of the night, or to hear from anybody who has experience of exploding head syndrome, or anything else while you're asleep, that sort of those sounds that startle you and wake you up. I don't know. I thought it was a cool, cool tie-in with the other story.
It is. It really is. And I like that one really well. I feel like it's probably less likely that that was exploding head syndrome, since the cat with the greatest cat name on the planet, pretty sure we're going to change Canelo's name to Chubby.
It would fit.
It would very much fit. It's the only thing that would fit him.
Ouch.
If the cat heard it as well, twice, that leads me to believe that either those two have some really extreme exploding head syndrome that can be heard outside of their head, or there was something going on there.
Yeah, but if you're startled awake by hearing the word hey screamed in your ear, guaranteed you're probably gonna flinch, you're gonna jump.
Yeah.
That could set the cat off easily too.
But she wasn't asleep the first time. She woke up because
she was trying to get to sleep though.
Right. But she woke up and the cat was all puffed up and freaked out. She closed her eyes to go back to sleep and heard it immediately.
Wouldn't it be cool though if we could interview the cat and the cat's like, these people scream in their sleep and it freaks me out all the time. And they're thinking that it's an entity living here, and I just want better cat food.
Yeah. The cat's all, I don't know, man. I'm just Chubby.
My name's Chubby. I just want you to love me.
Oh, that's cute.
Say, Jane, do you have any other creepy ghost stories that take place in Ontario?
You
Canada?
know that I do, friend. In fact, my second story is related to my first story as well.
No way. In what way?
It also takes place in Port Perry on the same ghost road.
Okay, cool. Hit me with it.
This story is called Ghost Road, and it was submitted by Christina Potter in Ontario, Canada, October of 2001. This story is a classic in my area. We've been telling it for years upon years, and it still spooks me out when I hear it. I suppose that's because I know the whole truth of it. There's a town in my area called Port Perry, and there's a road there that has been dubbed Ghost Road. The legend behind this nickname is, back in the late 1940s, early 1950s, we're really not exactly sure when this occurred, a young man, early 20s I believe, was traveling down Ghost Road on his motorcycle late at night. Now there's a lot of variations to this part of the story, but the version I know is this. He hit a pothole in the road and lost control of his bike. The bike veered off into a field, throwing the man from his seat. Well, there happened to be a wire fence put up directly in his path, which he hit, probably flying at about 80 miles per hour. The problem was, it hit him directly in the neck, completely severing his head. Now the next morning, his body was found and the authorities called. They removed the body from the scene and began looking about for the head, which, till this day, has not been found. So now it is rumored that the ghost of this unknown man continues to walk or ride Ghost Road in search of his missing head. This road has been an attraction to people, mostly teenagers, for years, myself included. A few years back, myself and a few friends finally took up the challenge and made our way out to Ghost Road. After about 2 hours and 2 to 4 beers, we finally saw something moving down the middle of the road. It was a bright light, like that on a motorcycle. Also, we began hearing strange noises, thumpings, muffled groans, and heart-stopping screams, mingled with our own, of course. Although it was the middle of the night, the moon was full and bright and washed over the area with a white brilliance. We could make out many shadowy shapes looming all around us, and when they started to move, well, let's just say I've never run faster in my life. So if you ever venture to Ontario, Canada, check out Port Perry and go visit Ghost Road. I'm sure you'll receive a warm welcome. Thank you again to Christina Potter in Ontario, Canada, for submitting Ghost Road, October of 2001. May I offer a small bit of advice to Christina? You don't need 2 to 4 beers to see a ghost on a road. You probably shouldn't be drinking beers on a road.
Well, it might actually help with the ghost sighting, although I've never been one to have hallucinations when I drink alcohol.
Yeah, that whole thing. I love that in movies or TV shows. We saw this crazy thing. Sir, have you been drinking? I'm like, what are they drinking? I have never.
Yeah, we drank heroin.
Right.
LSD.
I've never seen something bizarro that wasn't actually there, with a glass of wine. So I don't know. But I'm just kidding, obviously, about the beers thing. I'm not trying to get all puritanical on Christina. But I would be really interested in, if somebody has dug up the origins of that story, because I think in every story there's a grain of truth, at least a grain of truth. So the story has to come from somewhere. I doubt somebody saw the light and they're like, oh, let's make up the story that a guy died on a motorcycle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if anybody out there has documented evidence or proof of something that happened on Ghost Road in Port Perry, Ontario, Canada, we would love to hear that. If you don't have any documented proof, but you've been there and you've experienced it, bonus points for photos and videos, we would love to hear from you as well.
Well, I did a little research.
You did?
While you were reading your story.
Let's have it.
And I learned that Port Perry is also used as the exteriors for the TV series Hemlock Grove.
No way.
Which we started watching, and I think we watched the first season. We kind of kicked out after that.
We kicked out after, in the middle of season 2, I think. But season 1 was excellent.
And Port Perry was used as a small town known as Lakeside for season 3 of the Amazon show American Gods, which we also didn't finish watching.
Right. I don't think we made it through season 1 of
Well, we tried to get to Crispin Glover, and
we got to Crispin Glover, and we're like, okay, that's good.
So I think that maybe Port Perry, there's something about Port Perry that makes us not want to watch.
It haunts TV series and makes them unwatchable. Hey, Vince, you know what? I know we're in the middle of recording our episode, but I just got a notification on my phone that somebody just called the castle.
Oh, no way.
They called our hotline.
Which reminds me of something I wanted to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on.
While you find what you're looking for, let me just remind our listeners that if you would like to call us and leave us a 3-minute long voice message to tell us a quick story, that phone number is 801-436-7838. And if you didn't catch that, head to castleofspirits.com/submit. And it's right there, right at the top of the page. Very convenient.
Well, I wanted to mention that we got some phone calls within the last couple of weeks from Cynthia in Avon, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia shared some really cool stories that took a little longer than 3 minutes to tell. And unfortunately, Cynthia, if you're listening, we really weren't able to use the audio because at the 3-minute mark, when the voicemail ended,
we lost the end of the story. And when you called back to resume, you sort of started a little bit later on in the story. So if anybody wants to call, and Cynthia, you're welcome to call back and tell us preferably a more condensed version of some of the stories that you had to share. Yeah, just be really mindful of the 3-minute time limit. We would expand that if we could, but the Google does not allow us to.
Yeah. So if you hear the call end at the 3-minute mark, pause your story, call the number back again,
mm-hmm.
and then resume from where you left off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe rewind it just a little bit, and then that way I can edit things together. But Cynthia, thank you very much for telling us those stories. We listened with rapt attention, and we hope that others will call in to share their equally cool paranormal stories, ghost stories, time travel stories, cryptid stories.
Any stories, really.
As long as they're Castle of Spirits adjacent.
That's right. Paranormal adjacent.
And while I'm in the midst of offering instructions,
mm-hmm.
If you guys like this show, if you could please leave a review on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Wherever they allow you to. And not all the platforms have rating systems, I think.
We're also on Amazon Music, too.
Ooh, we fancy.
So if you're out there and you're listening and you want to kind of spread the word of this show,
the good word.
The more reviews we get, the more people discover the show.
That's right. And that just gets us one step closer to our ultimate goal of world domination.
Through podcast media.
Yes.
And once we dominate the world,
we'll unleash the ghosts.
No, I was going to say we'll invite everybody to come spend time in the castle.
But when you leave, you have to take a ghost with you.
Yeah, it's sort of like a ghost adoption center.
Yeah.
We've got so many.
We're having a ghost adoption event.
So if you are interested in adopting a ghost, give us a call or reach out via email. And if you like this show, tell a friend.
And if you hate it, tell 2 enemies. And with that, the music is coming down the hall. The ghosts must be fed. And it's Vince's turn to do it.
Oh, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you later.